Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and this is Too Many Bones, and it has been too much time since we've played this, and it's only been 4 days and I already missed it. So we are back in action with patches in the land of Daylor, and I always want to say Draylor, but it's Daylor. And we started off here in Obendar and we passed through the streets and we made it across the river, through the mountains, into the bog swamp area, past all of that into Shalefist, and we were just outside of Drellen's little palace there. We're going to head in there and try to take down that Tyrant in the coming day. But currently we are on day number 9. And in the last video we talked about an encounter we had found, whether we wanted to, we basically had run across an individual on the road and we wanted to either make a peaceful situation with him or cause a battle. And really we had a choice either way. We could be aggressive or be passive. And I'll talk about that in a second in terms of what everyone chose based on who voted and basically who commented on the video. First thing I want to make mention of really quick, as quick as I possibly can. I do want you guys to know that I don't want any confusion in terms of when you're supposed to cash in a backup plan. The only reason that I've kept these dice in these slots after the battle is over, which by the way is not part of the rulebook. In the rulebook, when you get your backup plan filled up and you decide to use it, you're using it in that moment. So I'd be choosing my consumable die because I wanted to do the Fortunate Discovery. I should have done that during the battle. However, I purposely am doing this after the battle, which is not part of the rulebook, because I want to get your guys' feedback on which dice I should go ahead and get. So what I'm going to do for now, just so that there's no confusion, is these backup dice, or this whole backup roll, would be cashed in and gone. Because at the end of the day, we know we're doing the Fortunate Discovery, and whenever you end a battle, which is the last battle we had, all of your backup plans should be wiped and all of your actives should be wiped. But we know we're cashing the backup plan in, as we talked about, for one of these 3. I left it up to you guys to decide which of the 3 dice we should choose. And the majority of you guys said poison darts. So we're going to go ahead with poison darts as our consumable die. So I'm going to put these ones back. Not to say that the other options were bad, because I can tell you right now, E-Cell and also Liquid Life could also be very, very worthwhile. But I think the mindset behind the poison darts were not necessarily to use them on Drellen when we fight him, but to use them on his minions. So from what I'm gathering, and I've never fought Drellen yet, but what I'm gathering from the people who have is essentially we're going to have to fight him. It's going to be a decent sized battle, and of course it should be large because we're going to be on day 9 or 10, so we're going to have a lot of baddie points if there is a baddie queue, which is most likely going to happen, which would mean we would have we could potentially have 2 5 bone characters out here, because we're on day 10, and 10 times 1 for 1 gear lock would be 10, and that breaks down to 2 5 chips. So it could be Drellen and 2 5 chips, and depending, I have no idea because I haven't actually flipped this card over to see, but I can see the mindset in getting the poison dart because we can poison his henchmen and hope to get rid of them as quick as possible. So I can see the logic, so I'm going to go with it. That is what I chose, and thank you guys first off for helping me choose that. That's awesome, because again, I was kind of debating between a few of them, and I was kind of leaning towards that one myself as well. In terms of the encounter, we'll move over to that, because that's really where we are in terms of the actual adventure routine. So we are on day number 9. We already ticked the counter over in the last video. We moved to this, and this is kind of where we're sitting right now, is to draw an encounter and then resolve it, peaceful or not. So we had a choice here of these 2 different individual options, and the majority chose not to be risky in this case because we are on day number 9. I do understand 100% the people that wanted to be aggressive and go after the battle and see if we can get the loot on top of it. But you know what? At the end of the day, we have 4. We can't carry any more loot. So even if we were to gain something, we'd have to discard something. Everything I have here is useful except for the stone hammer. So because I have such a useless item on me at this far in the game, and it's not that it's a useless item, it just never became a useful item because we never really had any trove loot that needed to use it to break into it. So we only ever ended up getting 1 trove loot the whole way through, but we broke into it without the use of the hammer. So we're going to go ahead with the peaceful offering. So this says maybe a peaceful offering. I'll just bring this up actually so you guys can see it even better. So it says maybe a peaceful offering is worth a shot. If you have a loot to offer, choose 1 and place it on the battle mat. Roll a d6, and 1 to 3 a loot is taken. So in other words, he's happy, but he's not happy, but the baddie is not satisfied. Make an encounter choice again. So then we'll be right back to picking, do we battle or not? And then the other one says a loot is taken and a baddie leaves. So we're really hoping for a 4 to 6. And if we don't get a 4 to 6, the other side of this whole thing is we could try to stand our ground. So if he doesn't like the fact that we've given him a nice shiny stone hammer and he, grunts and growls about it, we could just say, you know what, screw you, let's battle. We're not gonna basically take that, and we're just gonna go right to the mat and fight him. We could do that, or we could just keep throwing things at him and hoping that one of them's gonna work, but it gets risky because these things are gonna come in handy, like the Dex by 3 and the potion is gonna be handy. Of course, the boomerang is gonna be handy. So anyway, let's go ahead and chuck the stone hammer. So we're gonna place, it says right here, if you have a loot offer, choose one and place it on the battle mat. So we're gonna place this on the battle mat. We're essentially giving this to our little friend here on the road. Not little, he's probably huge. And we're gonna roll a dice, a D6, and we are gonna hope that we get a 4 to 6, because if we do not, he's not happy. Here we go. Where'd it go? Oh, it went off the mat, but it is a 6. So he is in fact more than happy. He's beyond happy. So the loot is taken. So he takes my stone hammer, and that means, guys, that we have a much quicker encounter, because we went from potentially having a full-on battle again here to just having to deal with the successful encounter. So this passive encounter or passive option now has succeeded. So we are allowed to take the training points. We've got 2 training points here to spend, guys. That's awesome news. I know 100% what you guys are going to see added to patches. So there's one thing I'm going to do 100%, and of course the progress point that's here doesn't really benefit us. It is kind of a bragging point at this point to have this many. Sorry, but at the end of the day, we don't need any more. We're already up to Drellen, so we're already good to go. But we have these 2, so let's go ahead and take the one that I know the majority of us have wanted to see for a long time. Oh, and sorry, it's not Fast Hands. Fast Hands is sitting up here in the locked die area ready for the next battle. But it's Bonesaw. And because, just so that you guys aren't confused, we have, this is a Fast Hand die, so this should be here essentially, but because I rolled it and locked it in last game, it sits up here battle to battle. So this, we've got this tree kind of moving in this direction, so we can actually grab either of these. So this is going to become very interesting. So obviously, based on everybody's comments in prior videos, this die right here, the Bonesaw die, definitely handy. Look at all this. We got 1s, we got 3s and 2s. There is not a single bone on any of this. So this is a powerful attack die. On top of having this die, the crazy thing about it is, even though we don't even have to boost our attack, we now technically could roll 4 of the white attack dice plus this die on top of it, because we have a dex of 6 and still have 1 extra remaining. So that's pretty amazing. This is a die that's going to come in real handy. Probably something we'll hold on to until Drellen is maybe open and ready to be attacked, and then we'll drop this thing on him and see how much damage with my attack dice I can throw at him at once. But that's really great. The other cool thing is we have 1 more skill dice, or not skill dice, but training point to do. And this is where things get interesting, because as of right now, we've gone across this track here and we've stopped at Bonesaw. We could take this one here, which is number 7. Number 7 is a med pack. It's another ability for us to heal. And to be totally honest with you, it doesn't, I'm really looking at this and going like, this is a really strong healing ability. And yes, it's nice to have this med kit, which is 1s and 2s, but I don't think there's any bones on it. Yeah, but it's a much weaker heal. Like, in other words, it'll help us on like a 1 nasty hit from an enemy. But man, would this ever recover us up real quick to be ready for Drellen to fight. So now that we've got this one, I'm thinking med pack could be really good. So I'm leaning towards another die for healing, because when we're playing solo, like, we really need to keep patches alive. So I'm thinking med packs. I'm going to put it here for now. The other option we have is nutrients. Nutrients is this die right here. So this die allows us to do a couple different things, and we'll have to take a look at the sheet itself to find out what those different things are. So we flip this over, you can see reroll heal. So you can reroll a med kit, and of course if we pick this die, we'd only have the med kit, not the med pack. But you can, a rolled medkit die may be re-rolled a number of times. So this just allows you to keep re-rolling the medkit die until you get what you like. So this isn't really all that great, although it gives you 2 bones on one side, and it has a treasure chest, I guess. This is loot. Immediately draw 1 loot if we land on that. But again, you know, it's very much a lucky die. It's kind of like a wild card of a dice. So cool, but maybe something we probably should have grabbed earlier on, maybe not so much for going into a big battle. Stem kit is number 9. Now stem kit could be cool, because stem kit's very, very similar to, and it falls into the buff HP area, and it says you add the number of HP to a gearlock's prep area. When taking damage, you remove it from this buff first. If the buff reaches 0, exhaust the die and remove all the buff. So the idea behind this one is you'd have to sit there and basically sit there and go, okay, so you've got a med pack. It could do 5s, it can do 4s, it can do 3s. 3, 4, 5, that's what you got with this one. Whereas with this, you've got 2, 3, 4, and 5, 1 bone, and you could potentially poison yourself. So I'm kind of going, you know what? The med pack die seems to be the dice that is more consistent and will likely, no, I shouldn't say consistent, but just more likely to not screw us over during battle and be able to heal us. This one could end up poisoning us or getting a bone, which isn't terrible, but again, it's just, or a really low roll, right? Like a 2. So technically we've got 3 sides of this 6 dice that are not what we want, whereas this one has 6 sides of everything we want. So I'm going to hold off on the stem kit. That's my rationalization on that, and that's pretty much it, because there's no other ones we can do. You have to have stem kit to move into any of these other ones. We can't take consumable dice. So you know what, guys? I think the safe bet is to add a med pack. So at this point, our tree looks like this, but I've already locked this die in from the other battle, so it's still sitting up here. But that's pretty good. I think we're set now. I think Patches has got enough ammo in his pocket to go. We're going to take this card now, and we're going to grab it, and we're going to, we don't need the progress point, but we're going to put it underneath Drellen's card, because later on we'll be able to go through and see how many progress points we were able to gain on this, which should be pretty cool, because we ended up getting a whole bunch. So the next step we roll into after that, and when it's successful, is you divide your spoils and apply training points, log process. That's what we just did now. That's the reward phase. Now we're moving into recovery. Now recovery is going to be interesting because we have a full health gear lock. So we have a gear lock at max health, meaning we do not need to waste our recovery options on healing Patches. So it's really cool because we can actually go ahead and look at some of these and potentially do something different. Now we can't trade, we can't lockpick because we don't have either of those 2 things right now. But like I said, with the individual options, we don't need to rest and recover, but we could search for better loot. So we could potentially look at our loot here and say, you know, maybe something isn't worth it. But in my opinion, preventing the application of one effect out of your Gearlock, I want to keep that because I know some poison or something's going to try to hit me, and this will come in handy. Mechanical assistance, that's great because it gives me a dex increase, meaning I can bump around the battle mat real fast. I'm going to keep that. In the boomerang, why would you ever want to get rid of that? So the other thing I could do is scout the area. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to scout it to see if we can take a look at potentially what's underneath one of the 5s. That's what I'm going to be gunning for, is that we're going to be able to scout and see a 5, because I know if there is a battle queue situation with Drellen, it's likely going to pull from the 5s based on the fact we'll be on day 10 and we have 1 gear lock, which is 10 points, and we obviously have no 10-point baddies, so we'd be pulling straight from the 5s right away. So we're going to scout the area, and on a roll, we are hoping to get essentially a 4 to 5, or actually a 4, 5, or 6, and we'd be able to pull from the 5 pile. So we got a 50-50 shot. You know, it's not great odds, but I think it's still better than chucking one of these and hoping to get something even more useful for loot. So let's see. And then at least if we're able to look at it and scout ahead, we can toss him if he's a real nasty one. Ugh, that's not what we want to see. So it appears our scouting for the day failed. Now we are allowed, you know, we didn't fail. We just failed on what we wanted to do. But we actually rolled a d6 and it says on a 1 to 3, we're going to reveal a 1-point baddie instead. So you're just revealing a 1-point baddie. So it's not as magical, but there's a baddie here we can take a look at. So we can take a look at him and see what we think. And he's a clay golem. So I'm telling you right now, no. This actually worked out really good, because if we have to pull any 1-point baddies, you don't want him coming out, because look what he does. We've talked about this before. He breaks your dice. And so when you're attacking him with sword dice, or I shouldn't say sword dice, attack dice, when you use those attack dice hits against this enemy, they become immediately exhausted and start counting against your attack. So this is a bad idea. So I'm going to put this to the bottom of the stack. Now, as you'll notice, this is the first time in the game, but I have drained the pool. So I'm going to have to, off camera, shuffle the one stack again. So as you can see, this whole stack we've ripped through already to this point, and it's likely because we spent the full 10 days. So what ends up happening now is this, I'm choosing, instead of putting it back on top because there was only one, I'm putting it at the bottom. So this will end up going kind of on the bottom of the stack. So what I'm gonna have to do essentially is shuffle this stack, and then at the very end of the shuffling, I'm gonna take the one I scouted and drop it at the bottom. Because otherwise, if I just shuffle it in randomly, me putting it at the bottom made no sense. So off camera, I will do that. I'll shuffle this. We'll put this, one of the clay golems at least, at the bottom. I think there's one other in the stack, and hopefully that doesn't come up. Yeah, so I'll remember to do that. I'll probably just go like this for now so that I kind of remember to shuffle that. And we'll go ahead and put a couple dice on it. Okay, so we're gonna have to deal with that. So that is the end of the recovery phase. So what do we move into next? Guys, we've ticked over to the most important day of our entire journey. This is the climax of the entire playthrough. We have hit day number 10, and we are finally choosing to go after Mr. Drellen Paleface. It took us 10 full days, quite a bit of journeying along the path here to get to this point. So we've gone ahead and we've turned our day counter. We're going to move into the new encounter, and I'm not taking an encounter from this deck. I'm taking the Drellen Paleface encounter card. We're going to read this and do as much setup as we can, hopefully, and then we'll run right into it. All right, here we go. Let's do some reading. So ages ago, Drellen was banished from Obendar, I'm pronouncing that terrible, to the poison marshes for reasons no one can or is willing to recall. Instead of perishing, however, Drellen remains alive, face twisted and scarred from extended time in the swamps. He is but skin and bones, yet somehow he thrives in the bog. So as you can see, our 10 days, we've hit the max limit. We have a one shot to win type situation here. We cannot fail. If we fail this, we lose the whole thing and everything goes downhill real fast. So we are going to be entering the Battle of the Bog. Okay, so this says place Drellen in lane 1. So you know what? I'm just going to start doing this as we go here. So really cool thing is Drellen is coming off of our map finally. We are finally encountering him. He will be taking lane number 1. So this guy here, and we flip him over. So I've never, and I can tell you honestly, I've never looked at his face. I do not know what we're going to be looking at here in terms of his stack, but I can, oh my gosh, he's got 8. So here's a little close-up of Drellen. A little bit of spoilers here in this, but yep, there you go. There's Drellen. He is not a happy camper, and he has 8 health. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Geez, that is insane. That is a pretty tall stack. He is a melee character, so he'll end up here, unless the game or this card states otherwise. His initiative is 5, so that's pretty aggressive. Where is 5? There we go. So 5, that's pretty crazy. Okay, I'm getting a little scared. All right, that's a pretty tall stack. Although he's 8 and I'm 6, so I guess it's not too much of a difference, but he's gonna be at that kind of health. Yikes, this is gonna be scary. Okay, so it says draw bog type baddies and place in lanes 2 and 3. Okay, interesting. Okay, so now this is where I don't want to mess up. I don't want to mess up on the thing. And now the funny thing is too is I've also got a big stack here of 1 point baddies. So we got to figure out whether or not we're building a baddie queue or not. Oh, we're not. It says battle queue, baddie points. Party of 1 ignores this. So you do not build a baddie queue at all. But because we're a party of 1, it says 2 1 point bog type baddies. Okay, so that means, well, here's the thing. Maybe we'll do this now. If they're bog type, my assumption would be, if I'm looking at the 1 point baddies here, what do they look like? Okay, so we got the green one. I just want to make sure I'm grabbing the right ones here. Yeah, the bog would have to be the green. Yeah, because Drellen, you can just kind of note it by Drellen's green symbol there. So bog is green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take... Oh my goodness, how does this work? This is going to be interesting. So what I'm going to do thematically, and this is kind of... I think This again goes back to Adam Carlson, my talks with him in terms of the rules and stuff like this. So in this kind of situation, I'm going to play it based on how the cards are saying it. Now, the way I'm looking at this is it would say, it says draw a bog type baddies and place them in lanes. Well, you can't draw them unless they're in a stack in the first place. Now, thematically, what I'm going to do though is we did scout ahead and we did know that a clay golem's on the bottom, at least one of them. So I'm going to take one clay golem out because I did see him, and thematically it would make no sense to put him at the top. However, there is one other one in here, so there's still a chance he could show up. There's only 4 chips there. So we're going to have to basically mash these around, and I'm going to have to turn my head a little bit so I don't know what's going on as I spin these around. You guys can laugh because these are not, this is not the preferred shuffling method. Okay, so I'll put these kind of like this. So there's our stack. I'm going to take the one that I scouted ahead on. I'm going to put him on the bottom because that makes thematic sense that I saw him and I don't want him on top. But there's still that chance that there's another one out there waiting for me. So I'm going to pull, it says right here to pull 2 1-point bog type baddies. So I'm going to pull one. We got a bog frog, and this guy's going to go into lane 2. So this guy, we'll just do them as we pull them. So this guy's going to be a lane 2 baddie. He's got 4 health. These guys are a pain in the butt because they're going to poison me from, actually they're melee, so that's good. Although they're right in front of me, so that's not fun. His initiative is 3, but we fought him before, so we should be okay, I hope. What else do we got? Oh, look at that, guys. The other clay golem was there regardless. So even though we avoided the one, and I tried to avoid him, the chances were, it was 50-50-ish because, well, not really. It was more like 25% chance and we nailed it. So, because there was 4 chips at the top, and then we put the second clay golem at the bottom. So we hit him anyway. So we got this guy, which is really sad because he's going to cause us grief. This is going to be bad because he's going to really screw us. This is going to make this particular battle much more difficult in the fact that we're going to have to deal with the fact he's breaking our attack dice as we fight him, which is really nasty. So he goes into lane 3, and as you'll notice, guys, I guess the only plus in this situation is we have a massive melee front. So in other words, no range characters yet. So it does say for a party of 1 to 2 1-point bog type baddies. We've covered that. Of course, Drellen's in there already. They're in lanes 2 and 3. Then it says each move position in this battle requires 2 decks instead of 1. So because it's a bog, the thematic feel is as you move throughout the bog, it takes extra decks to move because it's swampy, it's muddy, there's logs, there's weeds, whatever you want to put behind that in terms of theme and story. But that's the mindset. We'll go ahead and read these Tyrant rules real quick, and then this is essentially the setup. Of course, I'm going to give you guys the option because I'm going to be placing patches on the mat here. We're going to do a quick roll of the dice to see where we land. Just so you guys are aware, we got a 3, so we're going to kind of be ahead of 2 of them, but just after Drellen, of course, who's going to be pounding us pretty good. So my question to you guys is going to be twofold. Where does Patches want to start his battle? He's got to start on one of these melee spaces. So give me comments in the description below, or in the comments below. Let me know where you want Patches to be and which lane you think. So here are the lanes. You've got lane 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4. So which lane and which melee space you want to be in. And these are the Tyrant skills and Tyrant dice. So this is the die we'll be facing. This is the types of effects that we're going to be facing, so you guys are aware. The Bog Ruler, for Tyrant skills, if any Bog type baddies are on the battle mat, Drellen cannot lose HP. So we have to kill both. That's pretty much the wrap up. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep on rolling solo.